Well, so we have to do the newspapers. Mama View Sobwaje is also ready on the other side. We're maintaining some time for social distancing. We've been doing that for weeks now just to make sure we also set the example, but also adhere to the right protocols. All of us have our health as part of our wellness and our being and our thoughts always in mind. Mama View.
Yeah, the next time I should be home. Social distancing.
I think so.
Yeah.
You should emulate what Kojo does.
Check that calendar of yours. It's 15th of April. Got a question, Roland. It has to come to you first. How much of your salary, as in the last month's salary, did you touch? It's 15th of April.
I think all of it is gone.
Oh, really?
It came, no, I touched it before it even hit my
so you did the bulk buy-in with it?
Yeah, because I had pressure from home.
Okay.
But it's a logical thing because, you know, within all the information flow and a lot of content that was being delivered, there was panic in the air, and you buy at exorbitant prices.
True.
And I'm not somebody who will go to the market logically. So, but I also found out something that apparently just before the close of the second week of the lockdown, everything or stock that was purchased had finished because the kids are eating more. If you find yourself at home, you also get to find out you are stressed.
They're doing the snacks at home. You think it's only school they do that, but they are snacking on everything in the fridge.
They are stressed. You just have to study them in a very subtle way. Just have a lay-back attitude, watch them the way they move around, and they are stressed.
It's tiring for everybody. I mean, even if you're home doing nothing, it's still something.
So there's this interesting thing I watched on ABC. And ABC News published how Germany and Sweden and the rest of the Nordic countries were doing their lockdown differently. They're doing it partially, but also they've reduced debt subsequently based on how well they've been able to get everybody responsible.
As in debts of citizens?
Yes.
Okay.
And Germany has the lowest. They haven't hit the 4,000 mark, even though they have a number of cases compared to the UK, etc. Because the UK currently has about in excess of 11,000, you know. So. Well,
we'll learn a lot about the efforts, some people lifting the total lockdown subtly. We'll touch base and learn how people are doing it, other countries are doing it when we do the international review. But I was just thinking that maybe, just maybe, there are some people who haven't touched their salaries yet. I think so. I want to believe so.
Yeah. I'm sure some people
haven't done half of.
I'm sure some people soaking on gari and living
if you're
on.
Home, what would you buy? Yeah. All right. Let's do the newspapers. We've got quite a bit of the newspapers in the studio. Traditionally, I take the Daily Graphic. So let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page: $1 billion drops Friday, so $1 billion will drop on Friday. That's according to the IMF. Story on the front page of the paper says $1 billion interest-free loan from the International Monetary Fund will be transferred into Ghana's accounts on Friday. The fund will be used to mitigate the impact of the raging coronavirus disease on the lives of the people and the economy. Details there on the front page. You see how the front page and the back page looks like. Okay, there you go. COVID-19 won't stall cocoa syndication loan, according to Cocoa Board. On COVID-19, not death sentence. So COVID-19, not death sentence, stop stigmatization, Health Service Boss advises. So that was an advisor to the team who gave us that acronym that everybody seemed to be talking about since yesterday. Don't touch men. And somebody says, why not don't touch women? It is don't touch men. That's what it is. Don't touch your mouth, don't touch your eyes, and certainly don't touch your nose. Zoom Lion rolls out school disinfection program. 406 defiant citizens arrested is also another headline. Goldfields supports COVID-19 fight with $830,000. That story is in the paper today in the center spread. Vice President launches COVID-19 tracker app. More donate to COVID-19 Trust Fund. Government, GJA, others join to support public education on COVID-19. On the back page, local entrepreneurs innovate to aid COVID-19 fights. That's covering the entire back page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. So the COVID-19 pandemic is bringing out the innovation capabilities of some Ghanaians. Already a Kumasi-based entrepreneur, Mr. Richard Kwarting, has invented a solar-powered hand-washing sink while a manufacturing firm in Accra, Makhama Engineering Company Limited, has produced face shields made from local materials for frontline health workers to aid in the fight against the disease. In our 6 a.m. news on radio, Roland, there's also one Tando who is also producing the shields for frontline health workers. He says he's going to give it to them for free. So people are being very innovative. That's it for the Daily Graphic, Roland. What do you have?
Yeah, I know one person who has been very innovative in providing the shield. She's at home with me. All right, so let me do...
As in, she's shielding you or providing for her colleagues?
She's providing for her colleagues.
Yeah. I just realized something this morning, and it's something I haven't done. I should do it. I should celebrate my friends who are medical practitioners.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll do that from tomorrow.
I'm going to put all of them together and celebrate them.
You have too many friends, so I think it will take you a whole day to list them.
Yeah, I will do it.
Well, let's do the publisher. The new publisher has on the front page, fear grips ministers as Ghana Link Unipass fails again in Takoradi. And it says the story, again, continues from that Tango government seemed to have now put GCNet in because of a new contract that Ghana Link Unipass has. And some attached pictures of some key personalities involved in this whole transaction. Yaos Afumafo is a senior minister. Nick Danso is with Ghana Link Unipass, and then Kuku Kwate is a deputy finance minister. Up there we have God not responsible for coronavirus, Palmer Bako. Meanwhile, there's a side story that says the Tema Oil Refinery Managing Director hot over MP's bribery scandal. We're looking at the story. Moavi is having some interaction with some key personalities. We're talking about...
On the tour boss?
Yes, anti-graft.
He's issued his statement. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 406 arrested over lockdown rules, according to the police. And then kill me if I can't cure COVID-19 herbalists, according to this headline, there's Ghana Health Service. I didn't know we had a cure, but we have it in Africa, Ghana. I think that's good news. That is it. Let me do the Business and Financial Times. It has on the front page, Zenith Bank supports COVID-19 fund with 1 million Ghana cedis, 250,000, no, that's 200,000 US dollars. We have oil contribution to GDP to drop by some 2.5 billion US dollars. 2020 cocoa syndication loan will come off despite COVID-19 disruptions, Cocoa Board. All these stories on the front page of the Business and Financial Times. We also do have on the back page a number of stories related to the IMF approving a $1 billion emergency aid to address COVID-19 pandemic. All these right there. I'm done.
Let's do the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Front page of the Times. Zoomlion launches nationwide SHS fumigation exercise. 722 SHS, 28 special schools to be sprayed in 3 weeks. Scores besiege Kwame Nkrumah Circle, National Theatre for food. That story is on page 13. Police arrest 406 persons over lockdown offenses. Also, IMF approves $1 billion for Ghana to support COVID-19 combat. Confirmed COVID-19 cases jumped to 636. 17 patients recover. In the center spread, well, details of all the front page headlines. So let's head to the back page of the paper now. 600 Kaswa households receive sanitary packs, and who get state-of-the-art isolation treatment center. So that's it for the Ghanaian Times by way of headlines. The last paper for me is the New Crusade and Guide. Front page, Brian Champon gives back to Eastern region, supports COVID-19 fight with 821,000 Ghana cedis. $4.5 million energy scandal unfolds. Politicians, former Goldman Sachs banker fingered. Kingdom Exim stands tall in cashew sector. And one last headline on the front page, consider herbal medicine. Amin Bonsu challenges governments. All right, that's it on the back page. Well, essentially the stories on the front page continuing on the back page of the new Crusade and Guide newspaper. Not sure which stories you want to build on, Roland Walker, from the newspaper.
Yeah, but it's a story about how our contribution to GDP is expected to drop by some 2.5 billion US dollars. And Mamavi, this falls in line with how the finance minister just about 2 weeks ago had to go to Parliament and put before parliamentarians what the state of the economy is and will be post-COVID-19. It also speaks to the broader issues about how if you get to have what the IMF and the World Bank seem to be projecting, we have a negative 2.5 projection post-coronavirus by close of the financial year, all pegged for the sub-Saharan sub-region or the West African sub-region especially. But it is about how countries who depend mainly on exports, if you take third world, but even African countries, and how they're going to suffer, that's a main concern. And just this morning, we know that these packages have been approved by the World Bank, the IMF, but the concern is about how for countries like Ghana, Nigeria, and the rest of the developing world who depend on exports could have a hole in what their coffers could be, what their votes would be, and how that ultimately also would translate to the type of revenue or the kind of revenue, the quantums, and how they can also do the resuscitation. And I'm not surprised that we have to depend on the Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, the Africa Development Bank, for example, just to make sure that we shore up the effect of coronavirus on the economy. I'm hoping that all the stimulus packages we intend giving, especially small-scale industries, will be able to do that. We have to identify all those who undertake such businesses and give them what they need to enable them stand on their feet. It's very important. People live by the day in our country. If they don't sell that banana stock or that alassan or that ware somewhere in a market at Fadama or something, they just can't make ends meet at the end of the day. Yeah.
All right. With that said, let's do MyJoyOnline.com. There are other stories that we're going to build on MyJoyOnline.com, so we can take the details on MyJoyOnline.com this morning. We'll do the BBC. Hopefully we can do CNN with Trump and the World Health Organization essentially leading headlines today. Yeah, exactly, because he is threatening to withdraw funds or withhold funds from the World Health Organization. They're actually a very big contributor to the World Health Organization, by the way. So that would make, you know.
Yeah, and this year, Mamavi, they had said that the budget that the United States tends to support the World Health Organization with is in some $400 million. So if they are withdrawing that, but look, in the United States, it's generated a lot of debate. The debate is that Donald Trump is shifting blame on himself and his government to the World Health Organization.
Yeah, all right. Roland, let's do MyJoyOnline first. We'll have time and talk about it. Yes. So here we go with MyJoyOnline.com. What's making headlines on our page? Ghana mission in New York requests information on Ghanaians dead from COVID-19 in tri-state area. Asante Beeko rejects bribery allegations by U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. One of our very big stories yesterday, if not the biggest, apart from the press conference on the updates of the coronavirus in Ghana. And then, you know, he comes back with a statement that we will get into. New budget statement needed to reflect COVID-19 impact on Ghana's economy. So a bit of this story as I open it up. Audit and Tax Advisory Powerhouse KPMG has said the coronavirus pandemic will reverse Ghana's macroeconomic gains, with fiscal deficit projected to widen to 6.6% of GDP. You can continue to read on that KPMG story there on MyJoyOnline.com. Another significant increase since Ghana's COVID-19 case to 636. Ghanaian experts bust popular myths about coronavirus and on PM Express. how TOMD allegedly facilitated bribe payments to government officials, MPs in 2015 and 2016. But if you look at that statement that he issued, the MD, the gentleman who is now the managing director of the Tema Oil Refinery, Asante Beko, in his reaction to the claims he bribed government officials and MPs to gain approval for a power plants project. He's an ex-Goldman banker, and he's been cited, of course, in that civil suit by the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US for alleged bribery. Well, that claim, which has been filed, or which was filed on Monday, said Asante Beko, a former executive at the Goldman London subsidiary, facilitated up to $4.5 million to help a Turkish company to win a contract for a power plant. He said the contract was approved in 2015 during Ghana's chronic power crisis. Mr. Beko, in response to the allegations which have received vast media coverage, said in a release Tuesday that such claims are false. I state categorically that I have not paid any bribes to government officials, members of parliament, nor any officials of parliament. That's one of our major conversations today. So let me leave the details to when we're discussing this matter proper. UK-based Ghanaian bus driver Deacon dies after contracting coronavirus. Very tragic as well. 17 COVID-19 patients recover, according to the Ghana Health Service. NPP suspends parliamentary primaries over COVID-19 pandemic. I tell you, one of the major activities in Ghana is the May Day celebration. That has also been cancelled. So there will not be any May Day celebration this year, according to the Trades Union Congress, obviously because of the pandemic. There are plenty more stories on MyJoyOnline.com. You can find time and go through. Let's spend a bit of time doing the BBC now, Roland.
Well, we'll go to the BBC, and they always bring us great updates. It's called Africa Live. Now, Malawi, though, is declaring a 21-day coronavirus lockdown. And this is it. It's like postponing the payment of your debts. You know, you keep postponing, increases your stress level. So we're in the third week of a lockdown. They are now starting their lockdown. It's taking effect in 3 days' time. That's on the 18th of April 2020.
Guess what Botswana is doing? They're doing 6 months lockdown, Roland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Six months. I think I love that one.
Well, there are people criticizing the move because if you put the country in a state of emergency, you're giving the president a lot of powers.
Just like this.
All the powers.
Just like the same argument here.
So that's the criticism.
You know, I love what the Brits did. What they did was that their peculiar legislation has an end, and so it has a certain duration or timeline. So those powers given to the president would ultimately mean that they don't become enforceable after a certain period. But we have an executive instrument subsequently. But talking about what the BBC has, they also have other news updates as well. And then you can always get the update. So why lockdowns may not be the answer in Africa, it's also from another perspective. I think the lockdowns, if we hadn't done that, I don't know what the community spread would have been. Huge floating island causes national power cuts, but fugitive Brazilian gang leader arrested in Mozambique, apparently. But you shouldn't be surprised because they all speak some strand of Portuguese in a way. Million face masks distributed across Africa. And Mamavi.
Do we get to do the CNN? Oh, our time is up. Okay, so let's spend a bit of time because, of course, the World Health Organization is the organization that we're all looking forward to, or we look up to in terms of this pandemic that we're faced with. So with Trump's threats, it means a lot to the entire world. But this is what the CNN is reporting on their website. U.S. social distancing could last until 2020. China's wet market
lasts until 2022.
2022, I beg your pardon. China's wet markets, most are not what some people think they are. Coronavirus takes a serious turn in Russia. So measures such as stay-at-home orders and school closures may go on long-term unless a vaccine is found, according to Harvard researchers. Women leaders are handling the pandemic brilliantly. Why aren't there more of them? That's a question that's coming up, because if you look critically at the countries that seem to be handling this better, not surprising.
Yeah, we have Taiwan, we have Germany.
Female leaders. Yeah. 16 workers around the world told the U.S. Or told us how they're trying to hold on. This is a CNN story. Notre Dame's rebuild is on hold due to coronavirus. There are other stories if you find them interesting. But you know, the U.S. pays for about 22% of the World Health Organization's budgets, and they also do what is described as voluntary, as in funding. So for instance, in 2019, we're told they gave some over $400 million to the World Health Organization. And with Trump threatening to withhold funds, remember that he had called the World Health Organization China-centric, and that the things they should have asked China to do in the very early stages of this, they did not do. But he came under criticism. There was a lot of support for this man you see on the screen,
Dr. Tedros,
the World Health Organization, for many, particularly African leaders. But if you check the powers of the World Health Organization, they can't force anybody to do what it's more like an advisory. So they can't force you, they can't tie you down to do what they have recommended that you do. But one of the criticisms perhaps that I even want to step back and take a look again at is Trump saying at the time the World Health Organization did not send people to investigate. They didn't take people to Wuhan to investigate. They were just relying on
information.
China, information being given by China. So even though he's come under a lot of pressure himself, Donald Trump, in his country, people are criticizing him for not handling this better in the very early stages of the pandemic. He made a lot of jokes. I mean, we all saw how he laughed at this whole disease and, you know, termed it as China virus. There were some other people in his administration who were calling it Wuhan virus. It was all a lot of joke for them in the very beginning. Now we're here, and instead of taking the responsibility, it is going back to the World Health Organization. But I guess we all have to also look critically at the role that the World Health Organization played. Could it have been better? More of the conversations going on. But we have to take a breather, Roland Walker.
Yeah, definitely. And we have to say that we'll look up to all the latest. We'll bring you a brief on what you need to know by way of the latest cases for coronavirus around the world. Come to Africa and then do some in-country news as well. But next we have to do sports. Good morning to you, Mr. Philip Nutepo. You are with the Awudome Senior High School. You head the Agric department. Good morning to you.